that our labor unions have not also, sorry, sir, I think it was whether it was, you know, one of the speakers actually spoke about the fact that we need our labor unions to be more proactive, even about, you know, championing the cause of, you know, of to be employees. And so we need more activity across this different stakeholders group. We need to come together, and we are excited about this bill. We will be looking forward to supporting the honorable member of the House of Rep as we push it forward, and all other constituent stakeholders, in ensuring that we don't only criminalize the pegging of age for recruitment in Nigeria, we also start to emphasize that we should focus on skills and competencies. We should be an economy driven by skills and competencies rather than other factors that we normally consider: religion, age, ethnic background, and all other factors that don't really impact on ability of an individual to do the job. This is our position, and this is what we're also looking forward to helping to support and drive with the honorable member of the House of Rep.
All right, we appreciate your comment. And, you know, that brings up the issue of faking of age, which that was just raised now. All these are the part of the issues. And any employer that desires to have the younger generation of workers should as well do away with the experience, skill, and the competencies. You know, because as you all pointed out, that for you to have a master's degree, for instance, you have to spend, you have to be up to 27 or 28, as the case may be, you know, depending on the kind of school that you attended. Of course, the labor issue that will raise is very, very germane, and I think when we return from this short break, we're going to look into that properly, because the labor is not just when they want to increase salaries that
they should be active. That's right. That's very pertinent issues, Kiriam.
All right, you are still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now, but when we return, we shall continue with our conversation on, of course, the issue of age limit during employment.
Why don't you people sell imported materials here? As beautiful as the shop is.
Auntie, buying foreign goods does not help our economy. Neither does it boost local production. And the good thing is Nigerian-made products are high quality. Really? And to make Nigeria great again, that is why I only sell made in Nigeria products. Because change begins with me.
I'm convinced. Change begins with me too. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
We're still on to Good Morning Nigeria, and at this point we'd like to let you know what other Nigerians are saying about this topic. And we have a number of tweets here to read out to you. Kinsley would like to begin.
All right, let's begin. That's Cecilia Okoroma, and she tweets. Now, age limit for job seekers, it's what is giving room for age falsification. Hence, we have many overage civil servants.
All right, DW Nigeria. there shouldn't be age limits in some critical sectors of the economy. What matters in most instances is the acquired experiences to do the job.
And this is coming from Husseini Baba May. Says, setting age limits for employment is wrong in Nigeria, considering the consequences before someone becomes a graduate.
All right, now, again from DW, setting age limit cuts off the experienced job seekers from the labor market. An example is what happened in Nigeria. Graduates are told they should have 10 years experience. How can that be, seeing that our educational system is riddled with strikes?
And Sunday Coastman begins, tweet, says, I'm glad this is now at the National Assembly. Now, loads of qualified Nigerians have been denied jobs for the reasons of age. And more importantly, some of these candidates would have been the best for such jobs. I strongly believe in field performance and not age.
Now, Festus Akimbo says there shouldn't be age limit for job seekers because both the old and the younger ones are needed in the workplace. While old people may not be as digital as their younger colleagues, the experience they have acquired over many years cannot be taught or replaced.
And Osas Princewell tweets, may God help us in this country. You set age limit for jobs and students are getting older in school due to strike. Now, even the jobs are not readily available. Most times, they even ask for unrealistic job experience from young graduates. And this is very pathetic.
All right, Sunday Coastman, he says, I would also request the National Assembly to also abolish the issue of years of experience raised by employers of labor. 4 to 7 years at the university is already enough experience for an individual to be employed or perhaps train such a person.
All right, now DW Nigeria again is tweeting. Now, in some jobs, without age limits, that would lead to the sit-tight syndrome by an already experienced worker occupying a certain post or position.
All right, Suleiman Sanusi says, this is totally discouraging, really. They will delay you first without offering a job for the applicants, and later they will tell you that your age has disqualified you. Very, very unfortunate.
Now, Mortala Jabo tweets, now to me, age limit is a crime, considering the fact that private financial institutions are the ones making this arrangement in order to exhaust the energy of our youths and dump them at the time their families are in need of their support. To me, it's human rights abuse.
Michael Amokoji says there is no justification for setting age limit, considering that Nigerian factor. For example, somebody who went to university at the age of 21 but ended up graduating at the age of 28 for 4 years course because of strike actions, and the employers are setting age limit of 25. Is this right?
Adekunle Olayemi tweets, now the only thing they can do is to look for the people who are up to the task, not the age, but the knowledge, understanding and wisdom of doing it right. But in this country, we believe in certificates than the experience and knowledge of individuals, and that's why we are behind.
All right, Abdul Musa, the age limit set by employers for employment is discriminatory and against fundamental human rights of individuals. It is irrational and absurd because of someone's age, he is denied employment, even if he is ably qualified. Kudos to the mover of the bill in the House of Reps.
Hilary Songo tweets, I graduated from the university at 31. I collected exemption certificates. I am not eligible for any job. Now I am 35. The government needs to do something.
All right, Festus Akimbo, it's understandable that employers want fresh and young blood with up-to-date qualifications and youthful approach to things. They need to know that old people also are capable of adapting to modern ways of doing things, and of course, they're picking up new skills. We need every hand to build Nigeria.
Kirian, again, let's try to broaden the scope of this conversation as the guests have done. Is this all a function of the contraction in our economy? The fact that our economy has not been propelled on a productive base? Because let's take a look at it. You and I recall, and I'm sure most of our guests here, including those in Lagos, if you left high school in the 70s, it was fashionable for you to go get a job. And if it was in the civil service or in the public service, you were placed on level 4. And the salary then was 100 naira, and you paid 1 naira 50 kobo as, excuse me, as pay as you earn tax. Now, what is it that we are saying? Elsewhere, if you were to go to the UK, for instance, they say the so-called gap year. That the year, that a child says, look, I finished high school, I don't want to go to university. In the US, there are people who finish high school and you say, look, they want to work for a while and they take the appropriate courses they want to take, to get their first degree. And when they come out, the jobs are there. So
the core of the matter is that between the 1970s we're talking about till the 21st century, yes, Nigeria has not been a manufacturing entity. Absolutely. Because there are no industries. Because the number of unemployed are greater, multiply more in number than the employers, right? So where are they going to work? So that's part of the issue. When we left school, high school, as you pointed out, there was jobs to do, even part-time jobs too. Absolutely. Were available. But today, because of our being incapacitated in the manufacturing sector, that's the issue. But now let's turn to you, Abdu. You raised a number of issues, in your first comment, which of course has dovetailed into other perspectives of this conversation, and that has to do with the labor law in the country. We'd like you to expatiate on that.
Yeah. Basically, like I was trying to show earlier, our labor law has a colonial origin, and it has a colonial origin is also informed by the ideology of the colonial authorities of that time. The concept of labor was not a collective concept of workers. The concept of labor was largely wage earners, and then on wage earners who are not either unskilled or semi-skilled. And therefore, the laws were actually more about how to manage them. And these laws were coming post-conscription. Because in those days, the early periods of colonialism is that your labor was conscripted. You're not paid. Even when they started paying allowances later, you are forced to go do the work. So laws came up later to actually manage conscriptions and ensure that wages are paid. But they were actually largely meant for unskilled people. By the time the skilled generation was emerging, the policies were around the public service, whether it is a native authority system, or it is the regional government, or even the national government. So they were under a different law and different policy frameworks. And so continuously, as we amend the labor law, we haven't taken a fundamental shift to have a comprehensive law that captures everybody. And you could see it even within the formation or the structure of our labor unions. And that is why the NLC is very different from TUC. The basic difference is that NLC is more largely around people who are junior staffs. And then the TU, except when you add teachers NUT, for instance, Nigerian Union of Teachers. If you take those, that's why ASU cannot be a member of NLC and all those things. We know what the policies, how Babangida's government in those days, in the 80s, insisted on the particular formations to separate these. And we also know how TUs later on emerged. I just think that Nigerians should take time not to sit down and assume that we have labor laws, to go and read these labor laws and see what you actually provide there. Oh, it's about transport. How do you take transport? Or if you don't provide vehicle to convey people from one place to the other, then you pay transport. All those basic things. There is no proper protections, no strong policy provisions around recruitment. How is recruitment going to be done? How is it going to? All those ones are provided within the public service, the public service system, and we are not all in the public service. That's the truth. And I give you an instance. I had an agency where we are about 217 of us in the office, and I advertise. And we have hierarchy: assistant, officer, coordinator, advisor, manager, director, and each of these layer of jobs requires a particular skills and competence. I advertise for an officer role, for instance, which is probably the beginner, a beginner role, and then I get 10,000 applications. 10,000 applications, and then I have 3-4 people on the HR department who have to shortlist from 10,000 applications. And I have a metric for shortlisting, including a system, a software package that supports that system. But I need to recruit quickly because I have an opening and somebody needs to get in there. So it's a hell of work to actually be able to run that shortlist. And so probably what I will end up doing if I'm advertising is to say I need somebody with a master's degree. That job can be done by somebody with a first degree. But I'm doing the same master's degree because I just want to cut down the number of people that will apply. But it doesn't stop people from applying. There are those who will apply, even with a diploma, and go and be praying that God will... that God will just...
Be my portion.
This is a personal special. So what I'm trying to say here is that there is a huge contraction in our economy, a historical contraction. And this historical contraction is having a very significant toll on the capacity to employ. And once the capacity to employ reduces, the competition for the few spaces actually increases. What does competition create? Competition creates room for elimination series. You have to find a way of eliminating. So ultimately, I agree with Honorable. Yes, we need a legal framework to protect people against discriminations. Our Constitution is very clear about that. But again, if people don't remember the Constitution, maybe probably we need laws to remind them. I'm not contesting the idea around this bill. But what I'm trying to say is that the ultimate solution to this is that we have to grow our economy.
That's right. That's right. Thanks a lot, Dr. Abdul. You were talking about the elimination series, and the question, of course, is going to the guests in Lagos. Again, beginning with Shoaib. You eliminate, and as you are eliminating, you are also growing a battalion, first a platoon and a battalion and a brigade of potential kidnappers, Yahoo boys, Yahoo plus boys, armed robbers, thugs, and so on and so forth. And then we have, you know, a society that is very challenging for all of us to live in. Let's, Shoaib Idris, taking a look at it from the economic perspective, what is it that we need to do? Because if the economy were booming, if it had been booming for many years, certainly we would not be in this crisis. I'm sure that the headhunters for positions to be filled would be the ones who will be out on the field rather than having to deal with 10,000 or 100,000 applications. What are your
Kinsley, for that question. Let me, before I go on to that question, just clarify one or two positions that we have espoused. Number one, I think the genesis of discrimination in age as to work started during the first industrial revolution, when we had close to about 50% of the labor force working in industries in UK then to be children of 9 years of age, some even below. And there was then the need for a certain law that was supposed to be fair labor law of 1870. Of course, because the first industrial revolution started in the UK, you obviously, that dovetailed to, you know, some parts of US where in 1918 and 1922, there were laws that sought to restrict, you know, the age bracket when people should be allowed to work. Now, fast track your question, as regards, you know, what Dr. Hussein Abdul has said, generally from 1970 up to 1990, the Nigerian economy had various policies. One of those policies was import substitution. That policy technically gave a mortal blow to quite a number of our local industries. When we were doing import substitution, we were, you know, just importing items that we could produce locally. The fact that we do not have sufficient and, you know, uninterrupted electricity supply, then quite a number of our industries that will ordinarily have had a situation where they should expand, we are not expanding, and instead they are collapsing and closing. Obviously, with little or no new factories coming up, existing factories are not expanding, and population is growing at fairly higher rate than even our growth rate of our gross domestic product, then obviously the end result is cutthroat competition for the fewer and fewer job levels that we have. Remember, we have, retirement age at 60, so obviously you have quite a number of people working. Some are even older than 60 years, 65, 70, and even over 70. They are still working in the private sector. So vacancies are not created. More and more people are coming in. So what do you expect? You have, so much teeming unemployment because there are no vacancies. Unfortunately, both the private sector and the government sector does not appear to look at the challenges of those who have missed the bus or the buses. You rightly said, when you have graduates who have vied for positions of responsibility and they fail, what do we have? We have them in Boko Haram, we have them as kidnappers, we have them as armed robbers. There is need to possibly look at other avenues, just like what the current government is doing with Empower and other avenues, trying to create, self-employed youths and make them entrepreneurs. Those are the kind of avenues that we need to be looking at, so that the cutthroat competition in getting employment should technically and be given a mortal blow. And I think unless we do that, we might continue to have some of these challenges.
All right, thank you. Dr. Oladapo, let's take you on what should be your final thoughts on this matter. Of course, Shoaibu has of course laid on the table what the problem really is. And from your own perspective, how do we get around this, after all said and done, with respect to the issue of not having enough employers to, of course, employ the teeming population of the unemployed in Nigeria?
Very much. I think the model that has worked across the globe, because we also don't live in isolation. Other climes have also experimented, and they have proven results to show us that with the TVET, TVET stands for Technical Vocational Entrepreneurship, technological focus on both education and job creation, you are better off in trying to address this kind of problems we are talking about. We need to currently de-emphasize our reliance and focus and emphasis on certificates, and make sure that more of our graduates, more of our youths are also technically gifted, because all over Nigeria, all around us, are jobs. There are jobs waiting for people to take them on, We have needs as a nation. So basically, we need to work with the educational bodies and institutions to ensure that what the institutions in Nigeria are producing are in alignment with what the market requires, because the jobs are out there waiting for people to create them. So our focus on entrepreneurship also will help us in this regard. Finally, I also want to say that beyond trying to legislate and criminalize the pegging of age in terms of entry requirements into employment, we need to look at our labor law, as Dr. Abdullah said. We need to reform it. We need to revamp it. The labor law as currently constituted is one that was created, like he said, to support a second industrial revolution. So as we are entering into the fourth industrial revolution, which will also throw up many, many, many jobs, innovative areas that youth can explore, we also need our labor laws to support us in terms of a legal framework to ensure that, our workers and employees can get a good, deal as they try to earn a living for themselves and help us drive our economy. I think if we focus more on this, we'll be able to solve some of these challenges we have.
All right, Dr. Oladapo, thank you very much. Again, back to our Abuja studios. We'd like to take our last set of tools. We have quite a number of them, by the way, Kira. Let's run through them so that we have viewers ventilate their views. Professor Oko Ofoboche says, I'm happy to say that age and experience were never compelling criteria for employing staff up to the late 1980s.
All right, Comrade Ngala, I said age limit is not a barrier. Experience matters.
Usman Banikanto tweets, for me, age limit for employment should be abolished to enable employment of able and capable persons only. This is because life expectancy in Nigeria is not in favor of Nigerian youths.
Now, Joel Femi, this point is very bad spot in our economic development. The private 25 years, public sector 27 years, military and police 30 years, etc. Also place serious age limit, which is disastrous to the youth. What is the fate of those above 30?
This is from Kenneth. I advocate that age limit for job seekers should be at 45 at least, due to social, economic, and political situation of our country.
Now, from Lawal Kayode Ismail, he said, please make it clear to the government and private sector that older people have been deprived of job opportunities in the past. When the opportunity comes now, age should not be used again to frustrate them.
Akeju Olagbaju tweets, in truth, employers of labor have absolute discretion to set age limit. There is no law that could prevent such an employer. Now, in public service, the public service rule has addressed that for appointment and disengagement from service. Kirian, it says absolute discretion. And that's a point that ordinarily we could have addressed, because the cost of litigation is quite expensive. But I don't think it's been tested in the courts by an applicant or a class of applicants who will go to court to challenge age limits set by a potential employer. And I think one would like to hear the pronouncement.
When will you challenge? Is it when you're employed? You challenge
no. The fact when you have been discriminated against on account of your age. That's the point.
Not even from the experience that I gathered. Yes. Now that this conversation is on, they don't even tell you that you always hear it. Nobody writes to communicate that. Public service hardly advertise for jobs, and where they could advertise and state age. So if they state the age and say we're advertising this, then you can actually go take that advert and go to court and say it discriminates against you. But you go through a recruitment process and nobody even tells you.
Dr. Abdul, the point is that you find those adverts where the age limitation is stipulated.
Good. So people should take that kind of
litigation is not cheap.
It is only when you are informed.
When we're debating it, the deputy speaker said this, that there was even no need for this. That if you have issues like this, go to court. But my own argument is, the man has been so marginalized. He doesn't have a job. The father trained him or the mother trained him.
You want him to go to court?
To engage a lawyer is not cheap. Unless you have to get civil society.
You can go to class action. You can mobilize other people to support him.
If the employee did not tell you that he denied you this job because of your age, you have no start. The employer rather. Yeah. You know, if he did not tell you that I denied this job because of your age, how would you have any local standing?
No. That's the point. The point is this. What the evidence you require will be the fact that you have an advertisement published.
Okay. All right.
And then, of course, you would have applied, or a number of you would have applied. I think that this is, otherwise, the bandwagon effect, as Dr. Ladapo said, will continue. Everybody, your company does that, my company does that, St. Joseph's company does it, Abu company does it, everybody says, if you are not 25 years, don't come here. If you are above 25 years, we will not take you. If you don't, 25 years and you have 5 years experience, you are in trouble.
All right, let's take the final tweet from Dele Jack Solomon. Truth must be told, even though in some cases age specification is good. It's only in underdeveloped and developing worlds that age is a prerequisite to gain employment due to scarcity of job opportunities and high population size of able and employable bodies. In developed worlds like France, Canada, Germany, Malaysia, even Saudi Arabia, they do not so much of a significance is given to age as a yardstick to employ.
All right, those are the tweets that we can take, and indeed, for us, would like to thank all our guests who have been with us in the course of this conversation. From our Lagos Network Studios, appreciation to Shuaibu Idris, who is a member of the National Institute, that's the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies, a financial analyst and human resource expert. Thank you always, Shuaibu Idris, for your contribution. And with you there in Lagos, we had also Dr. Laiwola Ladapo, Director, Strategy, Advocacy, and Stakeholder Relations of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management. Gentlemen, thanks a lot for your insights from our Lagos Network studios. And here in Abuja, Dr. Hussaini Abdul, Country Director, Plan International Nigeria. Thanks a lot for being with us. And our appreciation also to the sponsor of the bill that has been the prompt for our discussion this morning, Honorable Sejos Ogun, is representing the federal constituency of Esan Northeast and Esan Southeast. Thanks a lot for being with us on the program. And we do hope that the bill will see the light of day and it becomes an act of the National Assembly. All right, so that does it for our conversation segment. Let's go very quickly now to sports.
The Super Sand Eagles of Nigeria improved their chances of reaching the semi-finals of the ongoing 2018 CAF Beach Soccer Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt after defeating Tanzania 4-2 in the last Group B match on Monday. The two-time winners of the CAF Beach Soccer AFCON announced second in the group with 2 wins and a defeat, pending the result of the other match between Senegal and Libya later today. The Sand Eagles lost their first game to Senegal but bounced back to beat Libya and Tanzania in the remaining games. The Adamu Ejo side are now 1 win away from qualifying for the 2019 Beach Soccer World Cup bid for Paraguay. They must first pick the 2018 Beach Soccer AFCON semi-final spot and win the match to end the ticket. Meanwhile, the new host of the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations will be chosen on January 9. The president of the Confederation of African Football, CAF, Ahmed, said on Monday, CAF has been studying alternative solutions for the staging of the June 15 and July 13 event after Cameroon were withdrawn as host due to delays with preparations and security concerns. The host for the 2019 will be chosen from a short list whose submission deadline is December 14. Congo-Brazzaville last week was named by CAF as a serious candidate to host the 2019 event, although the country's sports minister subsequently played down those reports. CAF President Ahmed will neither confirm nor deny the country's interest. And in the UEFA Champions League, former winners Liverpool and Inter Milan are among those facing decisive matches this midweek as the final spot in the knockout phase are settled in the closing group matches. 5-time champions Liverpool beating finalists last season must down Napoli at Anfield tonight to progress.
Now let's go to the Meteorological Agency for weather update for today.
Hello and thank you for joining us once again on the weather forecast from the Nigerian Meteorological Agency. I am Paul Ugba. A quick look now at the weather forecast for Tuesday.